Hi, I'm Alix, Paultre, editor-at-large with Microwaves and RF, and I'm here at the Things event in Amsterdam, where we're going to be talking about the LoRaWAN community, and I've got Dan Heath with me right now, and Dan's with Connexin, and you deal with smart metering, correct?
Yeah, that's right. We're at the moment rolling out networks in the UK for smart metering as a use case.
Well, smart metering is a really big app space for LoRaWAN technology, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the industries at the moment, they seem to be really ripe for digitization. I think utilities, they've been going for years and years and years, been relying on old technologies, and they're kind of coming around to the idea about what IoT technologies like LoRaWAN can do.
Well, it is interesting because, well, it's a relatively new space, right? Because LoRaWAN, with the digitization of TV, freed up the VHF band and everybody's using it.
Yep.
I think we went through a period of promise. Now we're in a period of solutions.
Yeah, I think you've got to kind of have the industry move with the technology in lockstep, right? You can sometimes have like these advances in technology, but people aren't quite ready for it, or they don't know what they're asking for. So it's this really interesting intersection now where, yeah, the market is ready. They're asking the right questions. They're aware of the technologies and its possibilities, so that when you get to that discussion with someone, they know what they're talking about and they know what you're saying back to them.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But when you're talking about something like a remote metering application, we're talking about large-scale deployments in a lot of these cases. What are some of the challenges that you find in doing those kinds of deployments?
Well, I mean, to start with, rolling out gateways at the level that we're having to do in order to underpin our network, it takes a lot of investment. So we need to make sure that we are working very closely with our customers to make sure that they're deploying sensors where we're deploying gateways. Otherwise, we're putting up network at cost and frankly, no one's actually using it. We don't want to put ourselves out of business. So maintaining that kind of rollout is really key, making sure that we're targeting the areas they are, because some of these water companies, for example, they can have huge geographies. So we need to focus in on a particular area. I suppose the other thing would be as well, smart water metering in particular, and which is what I'm going to be talking about on the stage. The water meters are underground, right? So you need to make your network responsive to really difficult challenges of RF propagation attenuation. So there's a lot of factors kind of playing into the things that we need to do to make sure that Connexin's network is working for the customers for smart water metering.
Well, but at least the old VHF band is a pretty robust band to use. It goes through walls pretty easily and the like.
Yeah, I mean, we do get that great signal penetration by using a technology like LoRaWAN. That's great. You still have to factor in that even if you do have that, when you're going subterranean, where these meters are, that's an extra level. So, we've kind of done this on purpose though. We've targeted AMI, smart water metering, as a use case because actually if we build for that, then the gateways we're putting in are providing that deep penetrative coverage to all other use cases. There's not too much that's more difficult than a sensor that's underground. So, our coverage is then able to penetrate into buildings, and that's what we're angling at. That's why we're doing this stuff.
Very cool. Now, you said you wanted to elaborate on one of the applications verticals. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
What, the smart water metering?
Yeah. Like for example, there are obviously there's the earth challenges, the penetration challenges. Are there some other implementation challenges that you have to address?
Yeah, right. So yes. Rolling out the number of gateways that we're having to roll out, we're talking about deployments taking hundreds, if not thousands of gateways. So there's loads of optimization around that. So I'm going to be giving over 3 lessons in my piece on the stage where we'll talk about like the gateways themselves. How do we make sure that we don't have to literally unbox every single gateway and configure those things? That takes too much time. We can't do that. So we have this auto onboarding process that we've worked with our partner Multitech with. That's a really key thing and pretty innovative, I would say so. Then we've got aspects of our RF planning. There are real novel approaches. We're using some pieces that we've taken from machine learning as a background to optimize our planning process so that we can keep up with the pace of all these deliveries. And finally, we're starting, and I think it's fair to say, we're one of the few organizations with such a density of network with thousands and thousands of sensors, where we're ingesting all of the metadata back out of the network server, really kind of getting to understand what variance is caused by which effects. And we're getting some really interesting patterns that we can just keep on optimizing and making this whole thing better.
Very cool. Now, when you think about this whole aspect, of course, how much hand-holding do your clients need? Is it a drop-in solution? Do you have to help them understand what you're trying to do for them? How much of an integration issue is it?
Right, I'll be as polite as I can. I've been in technology for over a decade now, and the one thing that's always the case is no matter how much you think your customers know, they still need a little bit of hand-holding. And it goes the whole world over. I've worked for some of the biggest tech companies with the largest companies on the planet as my customers, and you're still having to go there. These guys, they're switched on to the ideas, but we're having to coach them. One of the key things actually that stands out, it's not so much the integration side, because once we get the data, the process of handing it over is quite simple. But their process flows and how it impacts how we deliver the network is the key thing. I mentioned the rollout, making sure we're in lockstep. So if you're putting sensors there, I want to know you're going to put sensors there, because if I put a gateway over there, we're not going to be working together very well. So there's that as an aspect. But I suppose coaching them through the reasons why the network performs in certain ways, the reasons that certain variants might occur. A smart water meter, to the water industry, they're very familiar with the notion of a water pit being flooded, right? We put a sensor underwater, guess what? No signal. We can't help that. That's just something I cannot design for.
Laws of physics.
Yeah, right, physics. So we have to remind them of those cheeky rules of physics sometimes and be like, we'll do our best. We'll work with this, but this is part of that data collection and reporting it back. And then I guess the final part to this whole cycle with them is like getting those KPIs right. So what does good look like? And the ideas that they'll come to us with initially, we have to kind of temper those and give them a kind of a better rounded perspective on the possibilities, so that we end up in agreement about what that good looks like, and everyone's happy.
Is it possible, Dan, that you could give me an example of one of your deployments, some way you've addressed some of these issues?
Wow, okay, so one of our earliest use cases, and I'll refer to that, one of our earliest deployments for smart water metering is the Severn Trent Water deployment with Coventry. We've had that going for quite some time now, and it was modeled originally on effectively what knowledge we had at the time. So we actually slightly over-provisioned, I would suggest, and we're kind of going at the moment, hang on a minute, we have actually plenty of coverage there. Maybe is there validity in, changing some of those assets or tweaking antenna design or anything like that we can make, basically balance out the cost of us running this infrastructure versus the actual deliverables. We're starting to get into this point now where we're having to very carefully look at these different variables. Like, what happens if I change the ADR algorithm so that I reduce the margin that's possible, which will potentially bump my sensors into a better data rate, a lower spreading factor. But as a result, does that impact the consistency in the packet success rate? Because you get these seasonal variations, right? So I can't really make a decent optimization until I've at least seen a whole year of data. Because their foliage in summer or spring and summer versus winter, just get these huge variances. So we design conservatively, we have done, and that's exactly where we started. And we're now looking at ways that we can just kind of chop back into that a little bit, make it more efficient, and ultimately hopefully give a better price point to our customers in the future when we've nailed this.
Very cool, Dan. Before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts for our audience or any advice about your tech or something you'd like to leave with us?
Well, I would say that this industry, this event in particular, I'm very excited to be here because, do you know what, I spent a long time going to conferences which are very sales focused, and to be in an environment where everyone's actually willing to share, and you've got those little kind of nudges from TTI going, keep it inspirational, keep it educational, keep it interesting. It's exactly what I live for. That's what I'm here for. So I'm really excited to just meet with all partners or potential customers, or even potentially our competitors here, and go, how are you guys going on? What's this like for you? Because it's such an infant industry that we will benefit massively from collaborating, and this space is the perfect place for it. So my ask and my shout out to everyone on the stage tomorrow will be, come and find me. I'd love to chat to you all, and I hope to network with a lot of people.
You heard it now. Go ahead and hook up with him. So thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate you taking the time at the show for today to talk to us.
That's great. Well, thank you very much, Alex. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's mine.